Hi and good evening. Welcome back, guys, to Tropical Nomad, obviously, every Monday, 6:30. This is SpeakuP Monday. I'm your host, Robert Ian Bonnick, and as you know, I'm an advisor, so I help businesses and large inbound tourism initiatives find their people. In other words, I connect them to the people, the resources to be successful, right? Now, tonight is a great night because there's another fellow being who has organized some tremendous events for large numbers of people. And those being the Ubud Food Festival being one, and the Ubud Writers Festival being another one. And look, and she has also created your own series as well, right? Which I'm love to talk about. And one of the things that I love about you, without even knowing you well, is that it's very clear that you wear Bali on your sleeve, and you found ways to activate the best of Bali, to bring Bali in and to take Bali out to the world. And that's the same mission that we're all on here, right? It's about how do we take this amazing island, I always call it a country, this amazing island out to the world, because it's still, even now in 2021, it's the most Googled destination on the planet. Bali still is, according to Google. You can check it, right? And it's so there's a number of things that we're working on which will come good in the next 1 or 2 years that I'm sure we're going to get into. But look, so if you're here and you're wondering, how do I create something? How do I start something? How do I create a festival? How do I create an event? How can I bring people in and around some really wonderful activities that get to showcase the best of what people can offer? So if you're in that kind of mind frame, tonight's going to be a really great episode for you to watch. And for so many more reasons, right? And I just want to shout out to two people. Ladies first. So we have our sister, Cristia Panamata, who was the first person, Cristia, from Cabon Vintage Cars and Museum and Sunday Markets. And we've had her on the show as well. A beautiful, wonderful person. And then the second one, obviously, is our good friend in common, Bruno Valters. Bruno, if you're watching this, he's another beautiful man. Now, both of these human beings were like, you know what, Rob? Like, you should get Janet on the show. She's amazing. You guys will get along really well. And she's doing some beautiful things here in Bali. So really happy that we've been able to do this. So Janet DeNeefe, welcome to SpeakuP Monday, my darling.
Thank you so much. I'm really honoured to be here, and it's such a fantastic space and exciting to venture into the country of Canggu.
Yeah, we were talking earlier on because you're based more in Ubud, right? So then coming here is like, okay, where am I?
I need a passport.
Yeah. Where's my passport? I need everything. And you were saying before, about how, earlier on, there wasn't really much of a community, much of a pulse in Canggu, but now you've felt things change.
Yeah, it seems like, for me, it seems like Australia, actually. Feels a bit like Byron Bay. But there's a really nice creative energy here, actually, don't you think, in Canggu? So it feels like it's the place where things are happening and a lot of groovy people are, creating some exciting things. So from the perspective of the festival, I suddenly thought, hey, we can do stuff here, because I think these are the people that we're trying to communicate with. So, it's got a good feeling.
Yeah. And when I first got to Bali, which is about 20-something years ago, the first time, then I went away and came back again, I remember Ubud was the first or second place that I went. And I felt pretty drawn to it, though I ended up doing this, it's like a shaking meditation. It's probably still there, Ratu Bagas.
Never heard of that.
I know. And we were like shaking our little tootsies off for like I think we lasted for about, I would love to say like 4 days, but I know it was not much past 2. And we both looked at one another and said, you know what? We're interested in enlightenment. but not in this particular route to enlightenment. So I think we kind of gave it away. But there's a definite energy there, right, which obviously is very creative and very supportive of this journey, you know, of this way of to getting to know yourself better and the community around you. So is that what you found? Because obviously the two things that we're going to part of talk about tonight, the Ubud Food Festival and the Ubud Riders Festival, both have Ubud at the front of their names. So why Ubud? How did that all start?
Well, I guess I first came to Ubud in 1975. Before you were born, maybe?
No, I'm a 69 child. I'm 69. I'm like 51. Okay. So I was pretty young.
You're young, yeah. You're younger than me. So, I was really lucky that my dad brought the family on a holiday and he wanted to take us on an adventure. And it was just after the film Morning of the Earth had been made, so, we were all pretty excited about that. Morning of the World, isn't it? Anyway, I came in 75, so it was my first introduction to Bali, and I just always loved Ubud from then. Even we came down to Kuta and, enjoyed the beach, as an Aussie, being by the sea and everything, but somehow there was always a pull to Ubud. And when I came back 9 years later, I went straight to Ubud, and I really didn't leave, So... there was just something about it that I, from the start, really loved.
Yeah, there might be people here who are watching and maybe they've been to Bali before, maybe they haven't. Maybe there's people that are like, I've always wanted to go to Bali. And I've heard of Ubud, I've heard of Kuta, I've heard of these places. So, and this is probably one of the most difficult questions I'm going to ever ask you, Janet. But what is that thing in Ubud? Because there's something there drawing you, but is it something that you're able to put into words?
Oh, probably not. Probably not. It'd have to be something cosmic, wouldn't it? I don't know. It's the sum of many parts, isn't it, Ubud, really? I think it's that strong connection to the community. I think the fact, also, I suppose, like all of Bali, when tourism started, you were staying in people's homes, lodgements, and that created a really different sort of feel and a really beautiful connection with families. And you still have that in Ubud. More than down here, I think. So automatically you're close to the community, and there's just this sense of this vibrant community life, even now still, So, it's the people, and then of course, because I'm pretty crazy about food, it's that as well. And there's such a fantastic food culture in Ubud also. There's the ceremonies, there's all the beautiful things that are really appealing, just the flowers, the nature. I just remember when I first arrived, these are all the things that just sent off, these gorgeous messages. I was just kind of going crazy because it was just so beautiful. And as the West becomes more Western, a place like Bali still retains that natural charm.
And you mentioned before about, being an Aussie. I spent 20-something years in Australia. Being an Aussie now, so like, were you always like community-minded, right? And where did you grow up in Australia? And what was life like? I'm just trying to get a connection between, maybe when you were younger and how you came to do now, and if they're connected somehow.
I grew up in Melbourne, in the suburbs. On my mum's side, they're Maltese. And then on my dad's side, they're Irish. So you've got two small island cultures, And I think my dad, being Irish, old-fashioned Irish, they're very much about community too. When they were young, they grew up around the piano, singing. And my dad's father was very eccentric. And he used to travel the world. He was an artist. And he loved people, so he invited so many different people back to his house. And, he always had different people sleeping in his house. And even during the Second World War, my dad was a little boy and he remembered that on the weekends or whenever, there were always, servicemen staying, sleeping on the floor. He'd go up to the pub and meet them and invite them all home, So Yeah, and wherever he went, he made friends. So there was this sense that he was... there was no cultural differences, you know. My dad was the same, so they always had friends from many different countries, you know. So I sort of grew up with that, I suppose, that everybody had their own value, and then Mum being kind of Maltese, you know. So so it was a nice family situation, and my grandfather being an artist, in his studio was like a magical temple because he had paintings from all over the world. Places we'd never heard of, you know, like Venice, Doge Palace, things like, you know, all these sort of things. He lived in Samoa for a while and the Cook Islands. And he had all these paintings then, like sort of Gauguin-style tropical paintings, because he was an entrepreneur as well. And in the early days, probably getting off track, but one story about my grandfather was he never, he always seized an opportunity, right? They owned a printing factory, actually, in the end, but he was an artist. And in the early days, he went into, I think it was Ansett Airlines, because he loved travelling, and he said to them, look, you travel, you take people to all these extraordinary destinations around the world, but when I come to your office, there's no indication of this. There's nothing on your walls to show people where they can go. So he said, so what I'm suggesting to you is I'll do it for you. So they commissioned him. Like, he lived in the Cook Islands, I think, for 6 months, and produced all these beautiful paintings that they then hung in their travel agent offices. But I think after that they thought, yeah, maybe we can just take photos and it might be a bit cheaper. So, so he was a very interesting character. That's the family history.
You know, you said before, I think we're getting off track.
Yeah,
you're not getting off track at all. It's completely on track, right? Because what this gives us is a really good frame and understanding of who you are, right? So what the product of that we are around as we're growing up, as your beautiful daughter Lakshmi will be part of all of this, and like, you know, without knowing them, you know, like I can see, you know, which things you could draw upon, you know, like the travel, this openness to different cultures and bringing people home like evacuees, right? During the war, but they're not billeted from anyone, but they're just guys who are down the local pub. It's like, hey, I'll evacuate you from the pub to my home, right? On behalf of my parents, you are invited, you know, and just striking up the conversations with different cultures. And I grew up with a friend, Mandy Azapadi. So she's from, there you go, Azapadi, beautiful name from Malta. So I got a great sense of, through her, you know, what Malta is all about. And it's all about coming to my home, taste my food. And so what I'm getting, you know, this person who's created the Ubud Food Festival, the person who's created the Ubud Writers Festival, she was around and she was open either way through her parents and her grandparents to this recognition of the role of art and food in our culture, and the fact that you're a great guy went in and said, "Hey, look, you need me.
I know.
I gotta adorn these walls with something cool because hey, what I see is not what it is, and you know you need to have some of this, right? So you get that because at the end of the day, like we can't be wallflowers. We can't create things which impact a lot of people, but too scared to say boo to a goose. At the end of the day, you still have to be the person who's able to persuasively get your point across to others in such a way they feel compelled to say yes. So you have these things. So it's not off track. It's actually completely on track because it gives me a great insight and the people watching a great insight into what makes you tick. And like, I find that, and you're probably the same boat, that there's no coincidences, right? So there might be people here, like Hasina over here, might be people here who are watching thinking, I want to do something like that, you know, but I don't know how. But you know what? In my background, I can see that I do get along with people. I can see that I do love travel. I can see that I do just actually love connecting people, right? So I've got all of these raw materials that you have. Now, if you've been able to do this, then maybe I can too. So that's what I love about this. It's about inspiration is caught, not taught, right? Inspiration is caught, not taught. And so on that kind of note, you know, like we're probably swinging forward a lot here. Like how did you get into the mindset of creating those two incredible festivals? Like, how did it happen?
How did it happen? Well, I mean, we already had a restaurant. You know, we started with restaurants in Ubud from 1987. Back in Monkey Forest Road. So food's always been a big part of my life, you know. In fact, I started teaching Indonesian cooking around that time too. First in Melbourne, 1987.
Who are you really, Janet? Who are you? Can the real Janet come on down?
Well, my background's teaching as well. So we set up Lily's in Monkey Forest Road. So, you know, running a restaurant, I mean, it's hospitality, it's event management really, isn't it? So by the time we closed up that place and then moved into the main road, so we birthed Casa Luna, you know, in July 92. So, yeah, we had a good run. And what happened was the Bali bombings, right, in 2002. And up until then, our business had become very successful, you know, embarrassingly so sometimes, you know. It was extraordinary. It was what I think of as the golden years, really. You know, it was when Ubud was thriving and we were, you know, doing extremely well. Bam, the bombings. So everything changed, really forever, you know. And so at that point, it was a wake-up call. But also, I guess you can experience, like now, being in a place where you're left on your own. So there was no help for anybody. And so I thought, oh, damn, we've got to survive this. And we have to find a way. And so I thought, okay, what do you do if you want to entice internationals back to a place like this? And I kept thinking, well, it's the Pied Piper effect. You have to bring someone that brings a crowd. And so I thought, okay, so then we have to do an event. Simple. And what do you do? So at that point, I was actually finishing my first novel. And I was communicating already with Writers' Festival directors and, you know, being invited. I was on the circuit, on the literary circuit. And we were also, with a friend, we were also thinking, I mean, I'm crazy about literature and poetry. So we were thinking about starting like poetry evenings and things like that. So my head was already spinning in this sort of literary world. So I thought, what do you do to bring back people? What sort of event? I thought, a Writers' Festival. You know, that's a no-brainer.
Stared you in the face like, what?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because the pen is mightier than the sword. And here we were suffering from the negative impact of terrorism. So what's the most powerful tool to fight anything is the written word, literature. So I thought, okay, let's do that. So nobody really knew what I was talking about. My neighbour thought I was creating a water festival. But anyway, so I had a friend help me, and we just thought, okay, let's just do it, you know. So yeah, the first year was kind of crazy, but I thought, it doesn't matter, you just do it, and you make mistakes, but then you learn from that. So not to worry, people will criticise you, but it's like, it doesn't matter, you know. So so that's why I did that, and it was a way of assisting Bali to move on as an economic boost. It was about what I call the reflowering of Bali, you know, it's a boost for the economy, for the emotions, you know, just to feed the people emotionally and provide inspiration. But there were many levels why we were doing it. Also to increase the kind of literary aspect of Indonesia, to raise literature in Indonesia, to encourage more people to read. I mean, many things, but fundamentally, basically, it was to benefit Bali. Do it, Jack.
And I love that, Janet. You know, and I'm listening to your story, right? And which each question creates another 5 in my head. And not all of mine can I ask. So you're kind of like selecting which one now. Like a drop-down multiple choice menu. Oh, I'll choose that one. So like, okay, one thing that popped in was, embarrassingly so, when you were saying that your restaurant was so successful, right, Casa Luna. So maybe there's people here watching now, they maybe have a restaurant or a cafe and F&B business, right? Like, if there could be 3 things, I know, open format, this is how we roll. If there's 3 things that you could impart to them that would help them to ideally embrace success, what could those 3 things be?
To embrace success? You mean as in they're already successful?
Well,
or they want to be successful?
Well, let's say, because you mentioned before about the bombing changed everything. So what I get from you, even before we sat down, is you have this great resilience, right? This ability to say, okay, our backs against the wall, creatively, how can we get ourselves around it to still be up there and still do it, right? So right now it's this creative resilience. There you go. So from that creative, resilient perspective, what 3 things or so do you think, if someone who's faced now, maybe their business has been knocked for 6, what could they do to bring themselves back?
That's a hard one.
No hard questions here, Janet.
Especially now. First, I don't think anybody should run a restaurant to make money, actually. I think you have to have the soul of hospitality. You have to know how to look after people, how to create food that's enjoyable. You have to have people at the centre of your intentions, and food too. You have to know what good food is. So if you're running a restaurant just to make money, forget it. Mind you, I mean, a lot of people do, so, but that's not the way I do it. I think, it's very hard now. You have to pivot. You have to use your creative brain and think of other ways to survive. I think restaurants are not what they used to be, so you have to just tick, 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 tick. Okay, how can we turn it around to create this or that? I mean, I'm struggling in Ubud too. I mean, so you have to, right now there's also price points and there's all those other things you have to think about. But I guess essentially you have to have the heart and soul of a hospitable kind of person, and you have to think about community. You have to think about the people in your area, your community, and how to strengthen that relationship.
I was guest judge a few days ago. It's called The Funding, and it was this pitch event, and it was in Jimbaran Hub. Great venue actually, Jimbaran Hub, or Hub in Jimbaran if you're ever that way. And all of the people that came in were all local. And the idea was that it's a pitch event. So Wayne Thompson, who set it up, great guy, he really is like you, like us, the heart and soul of Bali wants to be well. And but I heard maybe 20 pitches and some phenomenal, what do we call it? Resilient creativity. Some phenomenal examples of that did I hear from locals. Some were speaking English, some were not, but just phenomenal. And I think, as you mentioned, when our backs are up against it, the best part of us can come forward and create things that there's never been. Right, and I have 2 kids, 5 and 7, and as Senior knows, my beautiful partner Marina. And one thing that we're very strong about with them is that, because AI is coming in. Well, it's not coming in, it's here already, and it's replaced and will continue to replace many of the roles that the whole educative system has been creating, the answers for, which in other words is so in the past that it's not helping, right? There's Green School and other schools and Montessori, which are doing, Anton Steiner, who are doing things differently, which is awesome. But at the end of the day, creativity is the key trait that AI can't replace. So that's the thing that we're really instilling within our kids of, however it comes, whether it's through sport, whether it's through art, whether it's through writing, the literary word, or else or otherwise, how can we support creativity? So when you said before about the no-brainer, right, in your mind of like, you know what, the pen is mightier than the sword. You know what, we might as well. Why don't we just do like a literary festival? It's a great idea, Janet, right? And so I can see, like where it's come from and why it would be a hit. And with food, as you mentioned before, about having the soul and the spirit of hospitality running through the central core of it, not there wanting to make money. Money will come if you're able to do these and execute those points that you made. Yeah. I'm sure that will follow. But I love the insight. I think anyone watching, already has a really great understanding of, if they're looking to come into it, what they should do. So then getting back to the festivals, so we know that these things don't just, even though it's a great idea, getting that idea to become reality can be really challenging. So what you're happy to share, what were some of the biggest challenges that you came up against getting those off the ground, and how did you overcome them?
I suppose the first challenge was just the fact that not everybody supported the idea. So I thought, oh, well, fair enough. So I thought, doesn't matter, because you'll all love it eventually. So don't worry about that. How can you not? You're all going to benefit from this. So don't worry. It's okay. Just so that, things like that I've had to learn to just ignore, because, at the end of the day, you're too busy. It's like, yeah, that's fine, but I haven't got time for that, So, but initially that was a bit of a surprise. I didn't expect that. But anyway, as I said, I got too busy, and I ignored it. I guess the other challenges with any festival is funding, because, to run these sorts of events, you need a lot of money. And so you can't rely on ticket sales. And so, that's always a struggle. Anybody in the arts will say the same thing. And it will always be harder for a writers' festival than a food festival. Because I guess that's the thing. Also, literature, people think that's an elitist kind of event, whereas it's not. And ours is really like an arts festival, because we embrace all sorts of different activities and things like that. So anybody will say the same thing. The challenge will always be funding. That's about it.
Got it. Yeah. I know that there's so much goes into it. So you're teasing out the most salient points for us, which is great. And so that funding piece, like, if you had the opportunity, right, where you sit today, and you look back in maybe over the last 20 years or so, and it's not really a simplistic question of I would have changed nothing because it made me who I am today, right? Don't worry about that for a second. It's more from the point of view of maybe people here who are inspired by this and thinking, I want to do that, right? What are some of the things you think that I should have? It could be a mindset thing. It could be a psychological set of things. It might be like funding ready to go. But if you look back at the younger you who was, who was there hungry and wanted to do this, what advice would you give yourself to have the best possible experience bringing all of this to fruition?
I think one of the things is you have to have a really good support group, and you have to have people around you that are skilled to help you make it happen. I learned that in the first year. If you want to have a really well-run professional festival, you have to have professional staff. So, you need people that you can communicate with. So, like anything, you need a support group. You need a team, or the people around you will keep you kind of energized as well.
Yeah. And how did you begin to find that team? So maybe some people here are coming up thinking, okay, I got it, I need a team. Okay, how do I find them?
Well, the first year we were all volunteers. Everybody was a volunteer, right? And but I was lucky in Ubud because people really believed in it, and we were all so excited to get it off the ground. And again, because I was already, as I said, communicating with publishers and all sorts of people, I'd put out the word to say, this is what we're doing. And the publishing houses in Australia were jumping up and down for joy. So, yeah, and the writers, everybody was like, oh, yeah, we want to be a part of it. It's so exciting. So I think the thrill of that, and then to have the first festival, and the success of that, you know, I mean, it was so exciting. And so suddenly we thought, wow, this is great. So in a way, it was sort of easier the next year to find people that would work with us, and also, you know, finding like professional help from Australia that was funded by the Australian government, you know, sort of latching on to all those opportunities. And then there just happened to be a girl in town who said, well, I'd really like to give a go at the sponsorship role. I said, sure. So we brought in people and we paid them whatever we could. But I guess in the early days, there was that sense of being part of something really exciting, something that Indonesia did not have, and there wasn't much of it in that region either, that everybody was happy about. So there was just that sense that, yeah, we're going to make this happen, and everybody wanted to be a part of it. So it just grew from that. And I knew, you know, as I said, after the first year, you need professional help. So I guess we were slowly aiming to find ourselves staff that had the sort of skills that would take it to the next level.
So for those of you tuning in, if you're on Instagram or something like that, or Facebook, maybe just popped in and think, what's going on here? So what this is, SpeakuP Monday, here every Monday at Tropical Nomad, 6:30. Go for about an hour and a half or so. Today, our special guest is Janet DeNeefe, and Janet, apart from being an incredible human being, is the founder, right, of the Ubud Food Festival and the Ubud Writers Festival. And so this is, you know, these talks that we have, they're not scripted. We don't kind of have a powwow before and say what we're going to discuss and what we're going to avoid and what we're going to miss. It's all on the table. Nothing's off the table. And so it's open format, right? And it kind of relies upon this inspiration is caught, not taught. So if you've got a pen, piece of paper, write the stuff down. And of course, we're here in Indonesia, so the Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which is unity and diversity, is something that always rings true. It's something which is deeply at the DNA and the heart and soul of the show, and it's about, you know, like, you know, people inspire people, and, you know, no matter who's sitting here or here, you know, it's the same things that we're looking for as human beings, right? Some of them are like to be seen for who we are, to be acknowledged for who we are, to be of value, to be of service, to be of consequence, right? For our lives to mean stuff, to mean something to someone or others, right? Significance, in other words. So these are some of the things that permeate what we do here every week. And so welcome. You're like a fly on the wall overseeing this stuff, which is great. So Janet, so got the sense now from Australia. Melbourne is a beautiful community as well. Love that. Got the sense that your parents really did kind of like hardwire, you know, this sense of community, this sense of openness, of experimenting, get along with anyone. You know, I love the Irish. You know, like the Irish always crack me up. I've got some great Irish friends. And you know, that Maltese mum and all of that beauty and culture and femininity that she brings into the home and everything else. I can imagine all of that. And just the fact that, you know, with restaurants and food, you didn't have a choice. You were in there and you loved it, obviously. But you mentioned something earlier on about you being a teacher. Now, for me, teachers is the most important thing that we have on the planet, because, you know, like our kids, the next generation, it's all about what goes in the beginning, that 0 to 6, that theta brainwave state that determines largely what they become. So the teaching aspect is such an important thing. So when you say you're a teacher, can you let us know, like, what kind of teacher and what drew you to it in the first place?
Well, I always loved teaching, actually, but
you're still teaching, Janet.
Well, I am actually.
I'm just letting you know.
Always teaching. Although my dad was the one who told me to be a teacher, because actually I wanted to be an artist, and so he said to me. He's Australian. Don't be a bloody artist.
Yeah. This is Australia.
It's Australian.
Don't be a bloody artist.
Yeah. He said, do something that gets you a job, and
it doesn't pay.
Yeah, so for once I listened to him, you know, and so I decided, okay, I'll train to be an art teacher. So that was really fantastic. I went to what was then Burwood State College, and the year that I was there was the second year of this art course, you know, Bachelor of Education, and so we got the cream of the crop. We got a lot of the really groovy artists in Melbourne that had been headhunted from Melbourne State College, so they moved to this college, and there was just this wonderful kind of fresh feeling, and they were absolutely supremely amazing art teachers or lecturers. So anyway, I trained to be a teacher. I didn't really work as an art teacher much because when I graduated after that, I was already coming back to Bali, and then so I was coming back and forth from Bali. So what I did in the end was emergency teaching or substitute teaching, whatever you call it. Yeah. But I was lucky that I got positions like a month, you know, at MLC when Kate Blanchett was there, or like some of the other Catholic girls' schools that were really impressive schools. So, yeah, I was lucky to have that experience in teaching. I love teaching, so I enjoyed that. I enjoyed having that degree and learning the basic skills in teaching, because, I still teach now. I teach cooking, but I still employ what I learned in the course.
Got it. You know, like one of the things I completely missed, right, growing up, completely missed it, I'm laughing at myself, is this, you know, like, so what school is really about, or I don't want to use the word should, but there you go, I've used the word should, is about learning how you learn. Not what you learn, but the skill and the attribute of learning how to learn. Because if you know how you learn, then there's no limits for you. Because whatever it is you need to be successful, you can learn. But if you don't know how to learn, then you're kind of stuffed. So I only just realized this quite recently. Damn it! but like, so if I said to you in the context of what you do, the food festival, the writers festival, being a teacher, being a mother, right? You know, like if I asked you, you know, what comes up for you when I say, you know, learning how to learn, how do you do it? How do you teach it? Or what does it trigger in you?
Well, I mean, you have to be open and receptive to ideas. You have to have all the windows open. I don't know. It just, you can't have a closed mind, or you just have to be sort of breathing in everything around you and just enjoying the world in a way. I don't know if that answers the question, but you know, you just have to be, eager. Eager, curious. You know, as it like sounds like your childhood actually. You know, eager, curious, things being thrown at you from all directions, embracing them as you go. You know, I love that, because again, with this, it's a Q&A show, but it's what's triggered by the question actually, not necessarily what the answer is. And it's not about the answer of what's right, what's wrong. It's about what the answer is for you. Because inspiration is caught, not taught from you, right? Which I love. So those people here, now you can come and join us in the studio audience. Now, why would you want to do that? Lord only knows. So why you'd want to do that, it was a rhetorical question after all, is you get the opportunity to ask questions and because this is always collective energy. The questions I don't think up or dream up or write down, they come in as I listen to you and take in what's created here. So now we have a third microphone, right? Itchy Bella, fella's away. Guzman, Ayub, we have the third microphone. Yeah? Super cool. Great. So we have a third microphone. And so this microphone can come around to you in the audience. Now, any specific question that you have, now's a chance, because you know, most of the time, let me just tell you about questions while Janet takes a break. With questions, like what often happens with human beings is that we get stage fright. You know,
like the deer in the headlight. You remember that one? Like public speaking. So basically what it means is that, so we're here in Bali, we're in a room, it's collective energy, right? And so if you have a question, there's a few things going on in your mind. One might be, I can't possibly ask that question. It's so silly. I'm sure they've mentioned that before. No, I won't ask the question, right? That's one thing that might be going on in your mind. What I would say to you is this. So here we are, all of us gathered. We are all thinking in tune about something. So if a question comes up, it's not too silly to ask that question. And the chances are that there's someone else in the room who has the same question. But for whichever reason, they don't want to ask, or they perhaps don't have the courage at that time to ask the question. So if you do have a question and you're in the audience, like don't take that, I couldn't ask that question, it sounds so whatever. Don't worry about it, just ask the question. So on that note, Brother Ayub over there, that handsome-looking man with a blue shirt, has got the microphone in his hand. And when you get it, just, I know this sounds crazy, but just put it towards your mouth and speak. Every week people laugh and they go like, what do you mean? What do you mean, mate? Aussie, what do you mean, mate? Yeah. And they do like this. I'm like, I just said, put it next to your mouth. And then I start doing these ones like, so, guys in the audience and ladies, just raise your hand now. Hasina, I know you have a question, so you know I'm coming to you. So there's no prisoners here. So Ayu, please give the microphone to Hasina and we'll start this. Thank you. And you can also have a secondary or a follow-up question, by the way. It's not like one question and run for the hills. I've had my question, I'm out. If there's a follow-up, it's okay. Because remember, it's you and everyone else who's here and who's watching.
Hi Janet, my name is Hasina. I was very excited to come tonight to meet you. There are a couple of things that really resonated with me tonight that you said. The first thing was to create your own opportunities. When you can't see in your environment the things that you need, then you have to go and create them, and I really like that. The second thing was do things with passion. And I think sometimes we can get caught up in just our routine and forgetting that we should always be challenged, motivated, inspired by what we do, and then the help will come. I really believe that when you do things with passion, the circumstances, the people will align and then help you to achieve them. And the last thing is that you wanted to create the festival to assist Bali. I think you have a deep love for Bali, and then you managed to do something that use your skill and your love for Bali and also help the island not only in a difficult time, but I believe also as a legacy of something you want to give and you receive as well. And I'm actually thinking of doing something similar, either a festival of culture or I'm going to put it down there. I would love to build a museum here, because ever since I arrived in Bali, and it's been 6 years, I've always been interested in arts, and I run some events, exhibitions, and talks and workshops. So for me, that's why I wanted to meet you, because it's really revolving into what I like. So my question is, like linked to art and culture and writers, when you do a festival in a foreign country, how do you, what are the criteria of selection for example, the writers? Because I guess you want to represent the local scene as well, but it might be writers writing in Bahasa Indonesia. So how do you ensure that you represent the local scene, but also you make it accessible for international people to appreciate the writers, the local writers?
So you mean Indonesian writers, yeah?
Indonesian writers.
I guess we just try and keep a finger on the pulse of what's happening. Actually, this year, for the first time, we brought in a curator who is a writer to help us connect even more closely with Indonesian writers, because we figured the people that are going to know what's happening among Indonesian writers is another Indonesian writer who's Balinese living in Jogja. So she's sort of got a very broad circle of friends. So I think you need to piggyback people who have the skills that you need. So if you feel you have a weakness or you don't know enough about an area, you just find someone who does and work together with them and do your own research as well. You know, nowadays that research includes Twitter, Instagram, Google, Facebook, everything. You know, I'm there all the time scrolling through things, and you stumble across things. So, of course, the hurdle with Indonesian writers is it's all going to be in Indonesian, so you have to have the knowledge of the language. But yeah, you just find people to assist you. You can't do it on your own, so you need help. And then in terms of Indonesian writers, if they only have work published in Indonesian, then we have a translator. If it's, you know, because our festival's international, but sometimes now we do sessions purely in Indonesian anyway. So you just need people to help you find things. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. I have another question as well, and it's about, I mean, you said, I was interested in the steps to actually start and create the festival, and you said, well, you just do it, and I understand what you mean by that. But how do you, for something international like that and of that scale, how do you make sure you also involve the locals in the organization at an institutional or government level, or do you have to, is it something that you've done in order to be able to create that festival?
I mean, first, where I started from, we already had a restaurant, a successful restaurant. We're from Ubud. My husband's Balinese. He's in the community, he's in the banjo, he's very highly respected. So I already had the foot traffic you need to create an event. I already had a community behind me, so I'm not just doing this on my own. I sort of looked at what I needed, and I had all of that. I had venues if I couldn't use other venues. I had restaurants, I've got a hotel, I've got every single thing I needed to create an event. So I already had that. So you have to have an amount of something behind you. And if you're starting from scratch, then you have to start making connections with people. Find out who in the community is an authority on art, or whatever it is you're looking for. Start finding these people. And maybe even start volunteering at places or visiting. It's a very personal thing, or it's about people. What's the right word? So you have to make connections, real connections, and then just start leapfrogging all over the place. Something like that, and you have to have a name. Start to create your own name, or a name for yourself as someone who runs events, who's successful, who's because you'll be the core, the centre of all of that. So you have to start creating your own little globe, your own little world, or,
The vortex.
Yeah.
The Sheena vortex. So she's got a lot of people rolling around.
Well, that's what you need.
Your vortex. You know what's coming up, right? Is there's a few things, and I like. What I love about you is that, so this inspiration is caught, not taught. So if you haven't been interviewed before, she makes it look easy, but it's not necessarily easy, because when you get thrown into the deep end, you don't know what question is coming next, so there's nothing you can prepare for it, And you're there going like, okay, you know, what's he or she or they gonna ask me next? So you've got that going on in your mind, and then you've got sometimes when the question's asked, then you forget what the question is. So you started talking.
Forget everything.
Your mind goes blank, and you're kind of talking and going like, am I making any sense at all? Am I even answering the question? So what I want to say to you, Janet, is that yes on both counts. So yes, you are answering the question big time, and yes, there's a hell of a lot of inspiration coming out, and you're doing extremely well because you know, I'm learning some great stuff here as well. I wish I could write it down. I'll just watch it after again, watch a replay. Right? So it's phenomenal what you're doing, and look. So keep your question. Next one, Hasina. Something comes up. I know there's another one. So something comes up, right? So a little bit more selfish, but not really. So I created an event, right? Over the years, I've run nightclubs, like 30 years, and events, and I think 2,000 events and 2 million people. Long story, but here in Bali, right? So I had this idea to do this festival event, right? This event is called the Brouwer Food and Wine Festival. And it came to me when I was riding on a bike in a rice field, and it's like, oh, I know what to do, I know what it is. And it's a community event which showcases the best of the community wrapped up as a food and wine festival. It's not a food and wine festival, that's the cover, but the true heart of it is community and showcasing the best of what the community can offer. So we did it. It almost killed me the first year because, like, again, what you're saying is I had this. I didn't really have that stuff. I had a will, I had a passion, I had a desire. And working with the Tamora group, I've worked with the Tamora group for 3-4 years now. Great people, Jocko and Mark, if you're watching, love you guys. And so what it was a Tamora gallery, right? And yeah, and I had an idea of what it could create and what it could do. And my mind was, okay, if we could do it, I told all the sponsors, which I got on board personally, 1,500 people. I knew I could get 3,500 is in my mind if I could put these things together and create the team and all the rest of that. Now, we end up with 5,000 in one day on the first day, which was awesome. So it broke all records. It's really, really good. And we haven't done another one because of COVID. Damn it. Right. So my question is this. So we had 70% local and 30% international. And there's people who came. And the idea is it's an annual event that we grow, and it's not a Tamora, it's not called the Tamora Food and Wine Festival for a reason. It's called Brouwer Food and Wine Festival for a reason. And the idea is to grow it outside so it becomes a Tibu Benang festival, which is a lot larger, and we close down streets and do all of that stuff. So the thing which I know that some people watching are in, people like Christia, who's doing her Cabon vintage markets, right? People like Roel, who's doing Voices Unleashed, who you should definitely connect with, who's going to do this franchising thing. And he's going to franchise it out. Love that guy. Yeah. Beautiful man. Him and Andrea and the other one. Some great people around. Julian Ulig, well, didn't pronounce that right, but anyway, the guy you met before is doing some amazing events, the census parties and all this other stuff. Yeah. So, how do you scale it in terms of, going from this idea that maybe has traction into this successful international event? Now, you've mentioned about getting the right people on board. But how did you find those people, and what else do you think, from your experience, should you be looking, which areas should you be looking into to turn it from a strong local success into a strong international success?
Well, again, I can't emphasize strongly enough about the people that you hire once you have some money, it's really, really worth it. And you must have someone strong in marketing. That's absolutely essential. So for me, it's all about the staff, the team that you create. I've seen the difference over the years where we are now. Not saying the early guys weren't good, but just we've got more staff, and we really target the best that we can. So you have to let it grow organically as well. You can't take huge leaps. You have to just be aware that, as an event organizer, you don't want to do baby steps, but sometimes it's better to be wise and just do what you can and make the program as exciting as possible, and also make it so jam-packed that by the end of it, people are falling in a heap and say they can't wait till next year. So, I've been criticised a lot for not having lunch breaks and things like that in our festival. It's a writers' festival. I won't do it because you've got to have this high speed for the whole 4 days, a food festival is a bit different to a writers' festival, of course, and that'll always be exciting because you have a lot of food, and you'll always get a huge domestic audience, especially if there's a lot of Indonesian food in the event, because nobody loves Indonesian food more than Indonesians. So I'm crazy about Indonesian food. So I think you have to be realistic. You have to create as exciting a program as you can. Just sort of aim to eventually get to the big time. And just make it diverse and exciting. And I suppose for us, for the Writers' Festival, trying to get bigger international names each time that make people say, wow, look at that, I'm trying to think who we've had that even other Western festivals. Can't remember that guy, Hanif Qureshi. Like, he came to our festival a couple of years ago. I mean, this is a guy that doesn't like flying, but I managed to get him to Bali. And so in Australia, they're all tearing their hair out because they couldn't get him to go that far, So for us, it was a real we got Hanif Qureshi. We got Nick Cave.
Nick Cave in the bad seeds.
We got Nick Cave, and people are like, what? Yeah. We've been lucky that just, we've grabbed these absolute gems that have made our program, dazzle. Because we're nice too, because we look after people, so that becomes the big attraction. So I think also as an event, for me, it's very important to remember the hospitality side of it. So in a way that helps us lure the big names and the special names, because we say, oh, hi, we're from Bali, would you like to come to the festival? They're like, oh, because we say, look, we're going to offer you a gorgeous hotel in Ubud, and we're going to throw in spa treatments, and we'll add some really fantastic Balinese dinners. And, you go to the palace, and we can take you on day trips to the, Jati Lui and the rice fields and things like that. I mean, who's going to say no to that? Doesn't work all the time, mind you, but it's part of our treatment. So, because, I've attended writers' festivals in other places, and sometimes there's that sense that there's no heart and soul there. You're sort of shipped in and shipped out. And I don't want to ever be like that. I want to, be really human and compassionate and look after people, so that from the minute they arrive to the minute they leave, they're like, oh, that was so lovely,
I love the hospitality in you,
yeah, it's
right? As I mentioned, we did some really big stuff with DJs and parties and events over the years in this side of the world, Australia, as well as Sydney. And, people always used to say, I've seen this person who are very famous play over there. But I've never heard them play like they do with you. How the hell do you do it? Right? And you just nailed it, right? For those of you who don't know the answer to that one, it's how you treat people. And it doesn't start from the moment they land. It starts from the moment that you start dealing with them, email, on the phone. It starts from way back there. And by the time they come, I've seen so many great international celebrities just have the worst experience, not at our events, but other people's events, and because I can see and I can feel how their energy is, and I already know you guys screwed it up. You guys dropped the ball with this one, because this guy is pissed off, upset, doesn't want to be here. That's not his fault, it's yours. Right? Maybe you didn't look at his rider properly, or her rider being a whole bunch of conditions that performing artists and so on, so to have to come and play with you. They have a whole list of things. Madonna's ride is crazy, but just a ride of things that they need and want and desire. You've got to have those things ready. You've got to have them in such a way that it just happens seamlessly. So from the moment they get there, they just feel like, I am in great hands. And that's what you do, and that's a hospitality aspect. So it comes as no surprise to me. You've got the backup, you've got the resources, you've got the mindset, you've got the idea, you've got that sense of hospitality, that, no doubt, and your husband being Balinese as well, and having all this beautiful culture there that people can have access to and drop into. It's like, oh, man, I want to go. God damn. 4 days in Ubud, I'm going. Right, so enough. Ubud. Hasina, do you have any more questions?
I was just listening to all the talks. I got a lot of inspiration from this talk tonight, and I think also some questions that I had, you actually answered through the conversation. So, thank you so much.
So welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Now, is there anyone else in the audience? Chocolate lady. I know. By the way, she's not a chocolate. Well, she's a chocolate lady, but she's not a chocolate lady. Anyway, any questions, darling?
Yeah, thanks for Chocolate Lady. I will do more chocolate events. But what stuck in my mind, and I'm still thinking how I'm formulating this in a question, was when you said that your restaurant was doing embarrassingly successful. So, why did you feel embarrassed, and how long did you keep that feeling? And did you have to, like, when you were proud of your achievements, did you feel like, oh, I need to tone it down a little bit, or I cannot be really, oh yes, we did that? Did you feel like that? And when did that moment stop, that feeling that you were not embarrassed anymore, but feel like balanced and at peace with your success?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, as I was saying, around the time of the bombings was like the golden years, before that. And so I just remember in that year, we just were doing extremely well, and people were queuing up to get in. This is a 3-floor restaurant. Full. And sometimes I'd go there and think, oh, damn, I haven't got a seat, And people would be queuing up to get in, and so I'd feel a bit shy with the neighbours if they had restaurants too. A bit guilty that, as a Westerner, I always felt that was an unfair advantage, because the audience, mainly being Western as tourists, and a Westerner running the business, you've automatically got an advantage. So I used to feel a bit, sad for my neighbours who were probably thinking, we want to share some of that audience, but as I said, it changed after the bombings anyway, so I didn't have to feel embarrassed anymore. I remember thinking that later, I'll never think like that again. So, everything changed after that.
Oh, man. In English, any follow-up question, darling?
Not a follow-up question, but I want to say that probably before the bombings, me and my sister would love to go to your restaurant, and we went to Bali a few times for a family holiday, and we always fight with our parents because every day we wanted to go and eat cakes at your place. And my parents, they were like tired, and especially my dad, he just wants to eat rice, but we loved it. So when they see that I'm here, they will be like, oh wow, so nice you meet the owner and founder. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah, we're pretty crazy about cakes. Well, the good thing is now my son, Lakshmi's brother, and Lakshmi and Devi too, my other daughter, they're good on cakes, but my son has started making bread and things. So so he's playing around with the sourdough bread, and he's the one making the pizzas. And now he's venturing into other things that I've been making, like today.
Teaching the kids first.
Her sister, my other daughter, said, Mum, Krishna's cinnamon rolls are way better than yours. So, I'm being overshadowed now by the kids, but that's okay.
Just the names, Lakshmi, Krishna, is it Dewi?
Dewi,
Yeah, beautiful names. But I love the Hindu. Beautiful names. That's why when you introduced your daughter before, and you said Lakshmi, I was like, oh, You know, because classical Indian meditation is one that's always been very pertinent for me and very powerful. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I'm used to hearing that name, but it's been a long time since I've heard it.
Yeah.
So I've probably said it way too many times in like 5 minutes. She's probably singing like, that guy Rob, why do you keep saying my name, Mum? It's like, is he okay? You know, does he need a, you know, so how interesting. But getting back to Bali, so there's this wonderful, it's a podcast that you have, or it's a show, right?
Me?
Yeah.
YouTube?
Yes. Can you tell us more about that? Where it came from, what it's about? Well,
as I said, I've been teaching Balinese cooking since 1987, and I've written about it. And so I've always wanted to do like a food series, always. And because, you know, I hang out in warungs all the time, you know. I'm crazy about them. And I've been living and breathing the food for so long. So finally, because of COVID, I thought, I've got a bit more time. Why don't I do all the things that I haven't had time to do before? Because even though last year we had the Writers' Festival, online, we didn't do the food festival. We sort of merged that into the bigger Ubud Writers' Festival. So for the first half of the year, I really didn't have too much to do. So that's when I thought, okay, let's do this. So I contacted Eric Est, who's famous for his sort of rock videos. He's this Indonesian guy from Medan, you know, who of course loves food, of course, you know, I mean, he's Indonesian, so he loves food too, and a whole mixed team. And so we just said, yeah, let's do it. So, we call it Bali Off the Beaten Track. Lakshmi does the graphics. And, we just go to all these places that people probably haven't heard of. Some of them they would have. So it's about, introducing people to the back streets. It's about showcasing, you know, really authentic Balinese food. But interestingly enough, since I've started showing these, the kind of comments and the emails I get are all, you know, international guests, like a lot of Aussies saying, oh, I miss Bali so much and I love your series and it makes me so sentimental, you know, like it's really hilarious. So, I mean, people are just, enjoying Bali from a distance, you know, like, oh my God, look at that food, and making notes. You know, they're all saying, I am definitely going back to that place or that place when they get back. So it's quite a nice promotion for Bali right now for those people who can't come here. And yeah, just to see how there's still that kind of artisan element with local food. You know, it's pure, authentic. It's simple. I mean, you know, there's no fuss about it, and it's really great food. I mean, it's like grandma's home cooking, and I'm blown away by it. I mean, the guy with the palm sugar guy. Did you see him? This guy that climbs coconut trees twice a day, like mussels that were like. Incredible, like they're like something out of Harry Potter. Like they're like ancient, you know. They're just. So I love that when you go off the main street, you know, off the beaten track, and you find this kind of magic, you know, culinary magic. It's very exciting. I love doing it.
Oh, that's so good. And, you know, it reminds me of my partner, Marina. She's from Jakarta. We met in Sydney.
Okay. Yeah.
But she's like typical Indonesian, right? She loves her food. Now, like this is a foreign concept to me. Like food to me, still now, I'm not embarrassed. Food to me is like mechanical. If it tastes good, even better. Right? It's a bonus if it tastes good. But for her, and she was laughing, like for her, right, if she has a bad meal, she is depressed.
Oh, that's like my son.
Right?
Yeah.
She is depressed, and you feel it too. It's like, hey, I've got nothing to do with the bad meal that you just had. Like, why am I involved in it?
My son's like that, my youngest son, you know. And I've stated the most common thing I say to him is, it's not your last meal.
Yes.
He gets
I'm going to use that. I'm using that. Honey, it's not your last meal, all right? Honey, it's not your last meal. Yeah, but it is now. It's like, honey, it's not your... Look,
Yeah.
the kids are like, what? Yeah, what? But even the kids now know, right? So I'm laughing about this stuff. And however, on YouTube, not every day, but what I've seen and what I've, you know, via osmosis or diffusion, right, being around her, she watches YouTube, and some of the most amazing shows on food from around the world. And again, like I said, like food is important to me like it is anyone else. If it tastes great, that's a bonus, right? That's a bonus. And but when I watch these shows, and like, you know, I'm not a big chili guy or anything like that. My tolerance has gone way up because I had to, right? But even I'm salivating looking at some of these foods which are being made, massive woks and all this and fire everywhere and like warung and like, you know, like no chairs to sit on, you sit on the floor. Like it's amazing. So I can see, so what is it, Bali? Off the beaten track.
Yeah.
Right, what a great name, firstly. Great name. And I can see it, I can feel it being a great hit. So how do people find that? So they go to YouTube?
I guess Janet DeNeefe on YouTube. I mean, I guess you find out about it through Facebook and Instagram. I mean, I haven't been tremendously active in promoting it, but anyway, after the festival I'll kick in and do a bit more. But yeah,
kick it in, Janet. Kick it in, Janet.
I know, but yeah. Anyway, I've had fun doing it. I would love to do some more because, you know, there were so many stories out there because food is also storytelling. Yeah. So I think that's what I love. Just every place I visit, the people I visit, they're so cute. Like the people in Pliatan. I mean, we were almost crying when we finished filming because we loved them so much, you know. They were so cute. So, it's just amazing stories.
And, you know, as it brings us almost full circle. So, again, the Brow Food and Wine Festival, funded mainly by Tomorrow Group, just want to put it out there. Right, mainly.
Give me some money.
Mainly, Pomada Bank as well, and Hatton Wines, thanks guys. But, and a few others, can't remember, sorry. And so many. So what happens is this, right, we're in a really extraordinary period of time. That was 2018, and we did that. We wanted to do it every year, but we weren't able to.
Yeah.
So then what do you do now, right? So you have some great festivals, and you said that some we put online and other, but like, how do you do it? There might be people here who are watching saying, look, love all of that, really inspired, want to get back into it, want to do it, started one, but now it's like, I don't know what to do. So what's the next steps?
I mean, it's funny you saying that because actually, was it the end of 2019 into 2020? Yeah, we were. 2019
was Brow Food and Wine Festival.
Sorry, yeah, trying to get my head.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we were from Christmas on. We were planning for the Ubud Food Festival. I worked 24/7, sort of putting that program together, and the team we were sort of by when, you know, half January into February, everyone was really flat out because we were going to have it in April, and we had a killer program. Like, I had chefs coming in from all sorts of areas, and just a really exciting program. And of course, by March we just had to we pushed it back, and then just said, forget it, and then put some of it into the Ubud Writers Festival. So I mean, the dilemma, of course, for the Ubud Writers Festival, even last year, that was the first attempt to go online, and actually we did better than we thought we would. We had to learn the new technology, of course, and all these new things, but I kept thinking, well, if Netflix can keep the world, you know, watching a screen, can't we do that too? Of course, it's a different kettle of fish, but anyway. So we learned a lot from that last year, and there is no other way around it, right? So now we're preparing for the Ubud Writers Festival in 4 weeks, which will be, it'll be a lot online. We will do some on-the-ground activities, but I suppose the key with any of these things now is you have to try and make the program as interesting as possible. And I think we've got some fantastic panel sessions, and I like to think that they're not the kind of sessions that you see in other writers' festivals. I tend to veer a little bit away from the really big names because they're already online everywhere, and basically I can't afford them. So I rather find the sort of writers that have something really interesting to say. I prefer it if they're, you know, from a marginalised community, or, you know, they've had some sort of trauma, or they're from other areas we don't know so much about, or they're doing weird studies like the doctor who's the first doctor to start what do you call it, a faculty in forest medicine, you know, people like that. So these things I find more interesting. So I think in anything, it's the strength of your program if you have to go online. So you have to not do the same as everybody else. And I get excited about things like that. So I'm already thinking about next year's food festival and who to bring in and what do we do, and if we have online discussions, what's really interesting. And there's a lot of interesting stuff happening about food. So I'm already ticking, you know, in my head, like what you can find locally, and how it can connect to an international audience. But then for me, the key is also you mix everybody up. So you have an expert in Bali and maybe another part of Indonesia, and then a guy from France or something. So, you know, I think that's the exciting thing too, is when you just toss them all together and talk about what they're doing and bring new ideas to the table. I think for me that's the most exciting thing. So yeah, I mean, while everybody's going online, you have to be creative and try to think outside that box. That's all you can do.
Yeah, think outside that box to get him watching it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like what comes up, and this is not a plug. Plug away, young man, plug away. So I've written a couple of books, right? So one book is, they're both autobiographies. So one is like, I grew up for 18 years in 2 children's homes in London, and it's a crazy time, and ended up working with Madonna and had these really crazy, like a business voted number 3 in the world, like crazy experiences that I never ever saw coming. Almost died a couple of times. But here's the thing. So I remember when I was writing, I help people write books as well. And when I was writing my book, I remember I was stuck because it was like this thing you mentioned before about this literary angle to it. And it was a guy called Robert Kiyosaki, obviously Rich Dad Poor Dad, who kind of blew it out the water, which was like, look, you know, yes, you can be, you know, a person who is deep in the art of writing, and write the most extraordinary passages and use the most extraordinary words and diction and verbiage and all of that stuff and really go for it and really enjoy it. Or you can be a person who just uses, you know, pretty much simple words, simple constructions of sentences and so on, in a way that conveys a really amazing story. And so I remember I got stuck in that, you know, I need to make everything flowery and shiny and interesting. Every sentence had to have this thing in it, a simile, blah, blah, blah.
That's not cool.
I know. I was like that. I was like, what the heck? And then at one point, I remember
prose, yeah.
I know. At one point, I just let it go, and I was like, well, mate, wake up, right? There's another way to do this. Yeah. So when someone approaches you for like a writer's spot, or wants to be part of it, right? Because the writers out there, I'm sure, who have some amazing stories on the fringes, right? Yeah. Like, what do you say to them? Like, how do they get involved? How can they contact you? How do they approach you? How do they go?
Everybody approaches me. Yeah, I think we just look at the work, you know, and we can't include everybody, of course, as much as we'd love to. So if we feel it's relevant, and we have a theme each year which helps us navigate the festival a little bit. So if we feel it's just not suited, or it's, we just have to say, look, I'm sorry, it's just not quite what we're looking for this year. I mean, there's other options to be in the festival too. You can join with a book launch, you know. So but of course we have to select, and we have to choose work that we feel represents the festival and the theme, and that's of a certain quality, you know, because everybody loves to be a writer, God bless them, but you know, sometimes sometimes
sorry, but you ain't got it.
Oh well, I think it's great that everybody writes, you know, but sometimes they need to read more, actually.
You know, there's been some really, because, you know, I think this is episode number 169 or something like that, 172. And so there have been some incredible guests, right? From the point of view, going back to just learning how to learn and just asking people questions, one mouth, two sets of ears, one set of ears, is phenomenal because, there are some incredible stories out there. And as you mentioned before about that doctor, right, the bush doctor, but the doctor involved, the faculty, what an incredible thing. So if you could perhaps pass on what the theme is, if there's any way that we can do a bit of a reach out and just to direct. I'm a big believer in, collaboration, whether it's official or unofficial, doesn't matter, but just to, when there's something good, support it, in some way, shape or form. So yeah, if that's something that we can do, just share it along to different groups. Yeah. Hey guys, these are the themes, or the theme for this year, and this is where to sign up and send your details in. We'd love to help.
Yeah, the theme we have this year was actually the theme we had last year, pre-COVID, and then we didn't do that last year. We sort of morphed into something else. So we revived the theme again this year because it's totally relevant. It's in Balinese, it's Mulat Sarira, which is self-reflection. And if we looked at it on that kind of cosmic Balinese level, it's not just about reflecting on yourself. It's like a collective reflection as well. So it's like the deepest form of self-reflection, as I said in the teaser, which gives you the deepest understanding of yourself, but those around you as well. So yeah, it's a collective thing. It's that interconnected sort of self-reflection on the road to Dharma, which is like the truth, So it's kind of a very deep self-reflection, a bit cosmic, but it's also, I think, just where people are at right now. And it's not just about connecting with yourself and other humans, it's the whole thing with the environment, with animals, everything. So it's just this really broad sense of reflecting on the world, I guess.
There was it was Janur, right? Moxa Janur, beautiful friend of ours. Yeah. And there's Tri Hitakarana. He was probably one of the first people to tell me about that, and having some really deeper conversations about that recently. It's just beautiful, man. Yeah. And there's so many questions I could ask you, but we'll begin to roll this up now. Mm-hmm. So, but one thing that keeps staring me in the face. You have this wonderful Australian woman, right, brought up in Melbourne and has all of their experiences and Irish and all the rest of that we've spoken about before. And then you've got this Balinese man, and three wonderful kids. I've met one, right? Four. Holy gosh, Jesus. I only met one, Janet. Far out. So these four beautiful kids, which are not kids, clearly, intelligent, beautiful people. So, what have been some of the most shocking, not necessarily in like, oh, I'm shocked, not in that sense necessarily, but you come from different cultures, right? So you've got the Western and the Balinese and so being with this beautiful man, I'm sure he's a beautiful man, what are some of the things when you look back and think, I never saw that one coming?
I'll have to think about that. I don't know. I think when you're young and you move into another culture, well, me, I was very flexible, that's cool, that's different, oh, yeah, that's interesting, oh, yeah. So I didn't really fret over much. I think one thing I remember that was really hard was when my husband's mother died, her grandma, and I didn't realise how much you have to do, for a cremation. We'd have to sleep on the floor or at the house for days on end, and, it was just this absolute devotion to this ritual. I think I'd never experienced that before, so that was hard, But at the same time, I admired the fact that they all did it without question, whereas I'm just like, oh, I want to sleep on my bed, things like that. So, luckily I was young, so I got used to that sort of thing from early days. I guess, all those things can be difficult if you're not used to it. But I think if you stand back and look at them for what they are and value them for what they are, and it's all part of your own personal growth, But again, I think it's better when you move into another culture to be younger. So, you know, if I was moving in now at my age, I'd be like, I'm not doing that. So, you're sort of motivated by different things when you're younger, or I don't know if that's true with everybody. Everybody's different. Yeah.
You know, the last question, you know, unless someone else over here has a question, you know, like, what would you say, you know, because I believe that we're blessed to be here, right? It's called, you know, the Island of the Gods for a reason. And, you know, maybe the hardest question I'm going to ask you, Janet, but maybe not. Who knows? What would you say is one of the biggest blessings that you've received from being here in Bali and having the life that you've had so far?
Just being here, I think. Well, I've just been extremely lucky. Again, I guess too with my husband, he's a very kind, sensible Balinese man, you know, and then I had beautiful children. You know, that's what your life becomes really, isn't it? Your family. So I think that's it really, family. Yeah, just like that.
I mean, for me, it looks like you've been blessed every step of the way. You know, even before you got here. Look, I know it comes with. It's not easy all the time. I get that, and you know, I'm sure there's stories you could tell us maybe another time. You know, because again, people, I think watching this would have seen captured the essence of who you are, right? Which is this amazing woman who's just kind of happy, go lucky in many ways, and just embraces it and just goes with it and just does, you know, like I'm sure there's a lot of grey matter and a lot of, you know, thinking going on, you know, but you're a person who does, you're a person who takes action, right? And you've had some great successes. So I think, and I look from the outside in, there's people who are watching and saying, oh, well, you know, she's had it easy, right? Oh, look at she, because you make it look easy for them, whereas I'm sure there's plenty of nights.
I've always felt, though, that it's important not to take yourself too seriously. I've always felt that. I've seen the people that do take themselves too seriously have a lot of trouble in their lives. So they become their own worst enemies. So it's kind of one of my things. Don't take yourself too seriously.
Remember that one. And so look, so now as we begin to wrap up, I've hardly looked over here. I'm not going to apologize, but because I've been here, that's why I haven't looked there. The way we end the show is that in about a minute and a half or so, we give you the opportunity to see us out with it maybe reinforcing something that you've said before. It might be that something drops in and, you know, something that you think it could be important for people to hear, or something that just are called to kind of say and share. Right, so we'll give you the opportunity in about a minute and a half, roughly. But so until then, thank you everybody who's been watching tonight, if you're watching us live or if you watch us on replay. Now, remember to share, right? Sharing is caring. There's probably someone who you can think of. It's like, you know, that part of what she said or what was shared, I reckon X and Y person would love to hear that right now. So just act upon it, just do. So share it, right? That's one thing. Number two, if you've liked what you've heard, join SpeakuP Monday group on Facebook. So SpeakuP, one word, Monday group on Facebook. We're also on Instagram, but that's more of a bulletin. So you just get a little on what's coming up. There's a WhatsApp group that you can join. This is another bulletin. Also remember, we're here at Tropical Nomad every Monday, and at 6:30 until whenever. And so please come and join us. Remember, Tropical Nomad is an amazing space. Itchy and the crew, incredible, beautiful people. If you haven't checked it out yet, there's a great deal that they're doing for Bali outside of these walls, some of which I'm involved in and we're doing together. And but incredible people, right? So you've got some really incredible spaces. Obviously, I'm going to mention Genesis and my brother George, of course, because he's an amazing guy at Tomorrow Gallery. So two amazing places and amazing people. Now, for those of you, we have 3 streams a week. different streams, not the same ones repeated. So tomorrow morning is Clubhouse. We have Diana Patton, who is a powerhouse, beautiful African-American woman. And what she does is really amazing. So that's 7 a.m. if you're up at that time, 7 a.m. on Tuesday. I'll be interviewing her, collective Q&A as Clubhouse is. So SpeakuP Monday Club on Clubhouse. And then on Wednesday, it will be a replay. It'll be another great guy we did an interview with 6-7 months ago, a meditation guru, is what I call him. He doesn't call that himself. He doesn't take himself that seriously. But that is an amazing one. So keep your eyes out for that. And is there anything else I can tell you? I don't think so. I think that's enough for now. So thank you for joining us. Lots of love to all of you. Remember, come and watch this as a live studio audience. Some great stuff going on. In the meantime, I just want to thank you, Sister Janet. I know everyone here becomes a sister. I know, like, really? You're my sister? Really? Oh, okay, fine. Okay, you're my sister. And I want to thank Bruno for putting us together, and also our beautiful sister, Cristia Paramata, who is, we give her a plug. So that is Carbon Vintage Cars, right? And obviously the Sunday market that I hope will start soon, because it's amazing, an amazing event. But Janet, thanks for being, being open to this process and taking it on the chin, being so open. And 4 kids, man, I have 2 and I'm like, 4, oh my God. So nothing but respect and love to you. Thank you so much, darling. It's been a pleasure. So over to you to see us out.
Thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Brother Robert. and the brothers over there too. Yes. They're working so hard. Thank you so much. So, thanks everybody. I do hope everybody tunes into our Writers' Festival, Ubud Writers' Festival, ubudwritersfestival.com. Tickets are on sale now. The program is up. Dates are 8 until 17. And I guess, message for today, maybe value your community, care about people who are around you, and be kind. To a Jeff.
Thank you, my darling. Thank you.